Maybe you've seen these around on social media and you've wondered what they are. Well, this is HueForge, and it turns things like this into things like this. Let's go. So we've seen colour lithophanes before. Those are a thing. In fact, you can now make those yourself pretty easily, but that's not what HueForge is. Lithophanes need to be held up to the light, and more importantly, they take ages to print because they have to do multiple colour changes on each layer. And if you want to do colour, you need a 4-colour capable system for the CMY and white, or whatever you're using, one that can swap multiple times per layer, and those systems are rare and expensive. You're looking at, say, an MMU or a Bamboo Lab X1 carbon with AMS. Even an IDEX, you only have 2 colours, so HueForge throws all that out of the window, and instead it works with a layered approach, a bit more like a printing press or screen printing, if you've ever done that yourself. If you treat filament like progressive layers of ink instead of trying to mix them on one layer, you can simply stack the layers on top of each other and you get an image. And just like screen printing or whatever, you don't need to change inks multiple times. You complete one colour, you swap, and you complete another colour. And this is the clever part. With this method, you have a total of n-1 colour changes, where n is the number of colours you need. It seems obvious when you think about it, because this is how other processors already worked for hundreds of years. So you can make these things on just about any printer that you can stop long enough to change filament, which is most printers these days. So this is HueForge, the software. The developer supplied me with a pre-release copy, but it should be close enough to the release version. It looks a bit overwhelming at first with all these dials, but at least initially you only need to concentrate, or mainly need to concentrate, on these ones at the bottom left. I don't intend for this to be a tutorial. I'll link to one in the description that's better than I can do. The basic premise though is that you load your image into the application and it appears on the right hand side, and you choose the colour cutoff levels using the sliders I just showed you. It's important to note that these sliders each have their own colour, and this is settable by right-clicking on each individual slider, and you can either choose an existing filament or add your own, and you could save those into the library, or you could just use the colour itself. There's also a parameter for transmissivity, which is the hardest word to say ever, just above the sliders, which is one of the more important concepts that you need to get your head around if you're going to master the process. Transmissivity is, without getting too deep, how much light your filament lets through, but in this application, not quite. It's how much of the colour below shows through. I'm not a colourologist, but if you look at a lot of modern printed media up close, and this does actually include the pixels on your phone, the colours you see are entirely fabricated by your eye's inability to see properly. There's only maybe 3 colours in reality. The colours you see between those, they don't actually physically exist. But with a system like HueForge, you're passing light through one colour of filament into another and then bouncing it back from the front, and you're able to create real new colours, at least that's my understanding. I don't really want to get any deeper into colour theory because I'll inevitably get it wrong, but this is why how much light is able to pass through your filament is important as a parameter. Of course, even that statement is murky because you're initially thinking white light, but you might stack, say, yellow on top of red, and you've got a different interaction there. Let's just not go there. There does exist a model, though, a scope thing on printables. You can use this to get the numbers that you can put into the application, and it will at least help give you what I guess is a rough approximation of how these layers will interact with each other. Again, this video's purpose is for me to show you what this is, not a tutorial, but there's various controls on the bottom right that control the depth of the mesh you create, which will influence how much detail you have available to play with, and how long the print will take, and how thick it will be. There's plenty of other controls as well, but it would require me to fully understand them to explain them to you, and I don't think I'm quite there yet. I've only had a few hours on the application and I've learned a few things that I'll pass to you though. This might help or it might not, and it's not entirely unreasonable to assume that I might be wrong. Firstly, for most applications, you may do well to pre-process your image. I found that really helped. Most importantly, if you're using your own photos, like this one, then the background will almost certainly be a distraction, or at worst, it will totally ruin your intended results. So you want to remove that. Secondly, if you think about your final result that you're aiming for, it has a lot less detail necessarily because you're printing it with a nozzle. So it can't hurt, at least in my opinion, to try to sharpen the image and increase the contrast. The closer your source image that you're giving HueForge looks to the output that you want, the easier I think you're going to find it to create that. You could even conceivably apply something like cell shading to your image, then use that. So that is HueForge, and you can actually get hold of it right now because I took so long to make this video. The price is $12 for a personal license right now. It will eventually double that by the looks of it, and in my opinion that price is still too low for what the software does. If you live in the US or Canada, then some consolation that you could take advantage of this Polymaker deal. Commercial licenses do exist. You can read, I'm sure. You can go and look at that yourself. I'm sure you'll find the price agreeable. I think it's pretty reasonable. I can see huge potential on Etsy for things like door signs. I would do that myself if I wasn't so painfully behind on other things like making videos. Anyway, there you go. You came for HueForge and you leave with one simple tip that you can use to make money. Go make some door signs and sell them. Let me know if you make any money. Anyway, that is about it, I think. You will find the links below in the description. Go check them out. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.